All right, so what do you think? How do you think you did on your GLP? Like, what do you think some of your strong areas were, and what do you think your areas of improvement could be?
I feel like the GOP went relatively well as far as communication goes. I had a lot of good ideas. However, it was really hard to interpret all the different information. Yeah.
Okay, so you think you had some pretty good communication. It was just the main issue was like the amount of info that was thrown at you.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So that's kind of that was on purpose. The whole purpose was to throw a lot of info at you because in the operational Air Force, not everything is going to come to you like drip by drip. Sometimes you're just going to get this fire hose of info like thrown at you, and you got to be ready to deal with all that. So as far as clearly recognizing your mission, you did. You knew what you had to do. You had to get you had to do assign names to the positions on the team. So you clearly recognize that. You were also completely in control of your flight the entire time. There wasn't like nobody tried to overstep you or anything like that. So that's good on you. You did a good job there. You did come up with 2 positions. You gave Cadet Long as your deputy, and you gave Cadet Rosa as your time hack. You did give Cadet Rosa a responsibility of giving you a hack at every minute, which is good because that still keeps you in the loop. That maintains like, hey, I've got 3 minutes left. I've got 2 minutes left. But one thing that you didn't really do is you didn't give your deputy any other roles. So like, what do you think another role you could give to your deputy would be? Like something to give them a job besides just being your deputy.
Maybe just to help. I tried to give them to help control the flow of communication because I was afraid it was going to get out of hand and everybody just trying to give their 2 cents.
Okay.
So that's originally what I had in mind, but since it worked out, maybe just making sure that new ideas are flowing and it's not just stale air.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. Giving your deputy the role of kind of like the noise checker, just to make sure nothing gets out of hand, is a good idea. But when you realize that nothing got out of hand, you could have also been like, hey, one thing that's really good is you had some members of your team that didn't talk at all, and you had some members of your team that talked a lot. So you could have assigned your deputy something like, hey, if you notice somebody's not contributing, talk to that person, see like, hey, what do you think, Cadet so-and-so? You haven't really talked. Or if somebody, the caveat is if somebody's talking too much, you could be like, hey, those are some good ideas, but let's hear from somebody else. Another thing you can do is you were doing a lot of writing and going back and forth. So you were going back and forth from your set of cards and listening to your team and writing. So I heard somebody suggest, like, would you like somebody to write for you? Maybe that's something to consider. Maybe you could have handled writing and listening at the same time, but it could have eased the burden of communication and given you like a lot less to worry about versus having to sit up there and write everything out. You could have had your deputy write for you, and you could have taken in the information and like if I'm your deputy, you can tell me, all right, I need you to write this. Yes, got it. Another thing that you should do is make sure you and your deputy are on the same page as far as the mission, because what happens if you're smoking hot doing this GLP. It's like, all right, all of a sudden you're dead and your deputy has to take over and they have no clue what to do, right? So make sure that you two are on the same page. So feel free to you guys had an extra 45 seconds worth of planning time before you actually started executing. That's why I was like, okay, are you guys still planning or are you executing? So, maybe take like 10 seconds, talk to your deputy like, hey, are we on the same page about this mission? Yes, no, okay. Stuff like that. That's just some stuff to keep in mind. So yeah, as far as that stuff goes, those are just some AAR comments. You did have to be reminded to assign some positions, so don't forget those. Those are crucial. Yeah, just rolling through it just does kind of get monotonous, like, hey, I got to assign this, hey, I got to assign that. So let's get to the actual stuff. So you drew out your plan on the board, the positions on the field. That was a good idea. It kind of let your whole team see everything versus just drawing it on a piece of paper. And you put the names into a table and try to use process of elimination. That's also good. Any type of system, especially when you're given a lot of information, if you come up with a system to kind of organize that information, that's good because it prevents, it keeps you from just having a cluster. You organize that cluster. Yeah. So you were open to suggestions. You took suggestions, and you were like, "Hey, I think that's a good idea," or "Hey, I don't think that's a good idea." So that's good that you're open to suggestions from your team. Lets your team know that you're listening to them. You ensured every member contributed at least once. Obviously, those who had more ideas or those who had more information contributed more. That's just kind of how the dice rolled. You didn't set goals, which is one thing that I think you should have done. Is, hey guys, by the 3-minute mark, I'd like to have at least 1 or 2 names, just that way your team has a little bit of a clue of hey, he's understanding what we have to do and he's looking ahead. Another thing was you didn't really motivate your team, so don't be a cheerleader. Don't just constantly like, hey guys, great job, great job. Be more of a coach. Like, hey guys, I know what we're seeing right now. We don't really have anything. Let's put our heads together and let's get something going. Let's get the ball rolling. So that's just something to keep in mind, an AR comment. You had a good focus. You guys were never off task, and you made sure that nobody was ever off task, which is great. Always on mission. You gotta, remember that. So it's great that everybody was centered in and focused. But you did have a relatively slow pace, especially towards the end there when you got told like, hey, we have 1 minute left. You were still just kind of meandering back and forth. So just kind of take that into account. You were very flexible with your plan. You laid out an initial plan, and then you realized like, okay, just writing stuff down isn't going to work, so let's put it into a table. Okay, that table is not going to work. Let's get some more information and see where we can start. Let's find one person to start with. As far as team building goes, your team performed very well. You never really let stuff get out of hand. Everyone was on the same page. That's pretty much all I got as far as this. You did a really good job of just making sure that everything was good to go. So, do you have anything, questions, comments, concerns?
No, sir.
Okay, cool. All right.